So we need to always start out being grateful for those who love us, those who support us, those who believe in us, and those who have been there with us throughout our journey along the way. And nobody in this world, in this hell world, this test of filtration system that is weeding out our choices, if there are gods, they never went through what we're going through. And that is a power. That is a power that we have, that we can contend that these beings, this computational system, this collective has never gone through the trials and the hardships that we have in this day and age, especially, but throughout antiquity. Whatever that does mean. When we look at Tartaria or lost time, calendric cycles, zodiacal cycles, it gets pretty confusing and convoluted. And we have to be grateful. We have to be grateful for the food in front of us, the people that believe in us, the people that love us, the people that will forgive us for our inequity, our human dissolution into just survival and maintenance. That is kind of an animal trait, isn't it? But we even see that animals can be selfless, and selflessness seems to be at the heart of this whole thing. So with that said, be grateful, be blessed, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about where I'm at and what the goals are in the coming month. I just got my Walmart order, and I'm sticking with pretty basic foods. I wasn't able to get some products that I was focusing on last month. One in particular is potatoes. They just weren't available with the resources that I have at the moment, so I ended up trying to double up on the oats and make sure that I have 20 pounds of rice for the month as well, which shouldn't be an issue. But I turned a little bit more toward beans and corn and more fiber sources and more instantized foods that will allow me to make my meals with ease. Of course, 260 flats of eggs, 120 eggs. I don't necessarily do eggs every single day. Sometimes the eggs I'll just focus on egg whites, right? But I think where you can, try not to waste foods and try to get in the higher quality in any of the calories that you're taking in. With that said, there's a big focus on protein powders. I'll be doing a little expose on the 3 6-star protein powders I bought. I got cornflake flavor, or frosted flake flavor, Fruity Pebbles, and the chocolate. I really want to try that particular brand out because I was doing the creatine all last month, almost out of that. We bought more creatine, and I did do a little expose on that as well. So look out for that. I'm bumping my creatine up to 15 to 20,000 milligrams or 15 to 20 grams per day. I'm going by what the latest research has shown. There's oftentimes that I don't get enough sleep, but I did manage to get some sleeping pills as well this month. It's been about a month since I've been using sleeping pills, and I have to take some sort of Dramamine or something to knock myself out. Otherwise, I'm just up. It doesn't even matter if I'm taking a lot of caffeine or whatever. I don't sleep. It just doesn't happen. I'll lay down and just stay there fidgeting. And so I require a sleep aid, and that's detrimental to any of the progress that I'm making to whether or not I can put the intensity out that is expected. So today, I'm really trying to ramp it up. Yesterday, I did kind of a base maintenance arms and shoulder workout. I wanted to be able to get a more intense workout, but I'm also burning out on just bodyweight movements exclusively. Thanks to my son, Antonio, I was able to order a couple dumbbells. Instead of getting the 52-pound mixed set, so the instantized dial compact dumbbell, right? I got the hex. I got 55 pounds and I got 30 pounds because I realized I could do drop sets, and I also realized that if I were to just use a crude system that you can't really do in the gym, nor is it necessary because you have all those different dumbbells, I could combine them in a backpack or in a number of different shopping bags and to be able to use 85 pounds, right? Or even throw a bag of rice in there with 5 pounds. So I'm using what I have available, but the reason that I went for 30 pounds is that I'm still going to be doing predominantly TRX and bodyweight exercises, and what's going to add to the definition and to the fatigue and muscle stimulus throughout the entire full muscle bellies, which is what I'm really working on this month, is that I could just jump into 30s, that I could go down from, say, doing curls, doing a bodyweight type chin-up curl using 140 to 155 pounds of my body weight on my biceps, which has been a great exercise. I'm 55 going on 56, and I'm feeling and looking really solid. But I've been surprised that I was able to even pull it off this time. I thought I was over the hill and done. So it is encouragement for a lot of people that are in my age bracket, older, younger. But I really want to be able to give people advice from a beginning standpoint, because I was that teenager building my own equipment in the garage, eventually ordering up quite a few pieces of really high quality weightlifting equipment. Had a bunch of the kids from the high school coming over, working out in my garage. I had a better setup than the school did at that time. And so sometimes there would be a lot of kids in the garage just hanging out and lifting and partying up, And so, not partying up as far as using any substances, but I think there was one time where I had some rednecky people that I knew that weren't necessarily friends that I allowed to go down there and slam a few beers and work out, and that's the way that it used to be. You used to be able to do things like that back in the 1980s, it's a different time. I'm not going to say it's a better or worse time. That's the paradigm that they want you to stay stuck in. So what to look out for in this coming month is bigger, fuller, stronger, and more consistent training, at least 5 days a week instead of 3 to 4 days a week. I was kind of getting into this rut where I was cutting back on my walking, which I really love walking, and I don't want to cut back on it. But I wasn't able to do the squats that I required to really start focusing on my lower body. A lot of hip pain, a lot of things like that, and just really burned out on TRX, even though it's been many years since I've worked out on TRX. I trained session after session after session with clients on TRX. I would work out multiple times a day myself using a suspension trainer, and these modalities just start to wear you and get old pretty quick. So I ask for your support, at least in watching to its entirety and sharing this message to as many people as you can, is all I ask, so that I can start subsidizing what I do. I want to add in some kettlebells. I have been a kettlebell instructor, certified kettlebell instructor, and I've been a Pilates instructor, certified Pilates instructor. I've been certified through TRX Fitness Anywhere. I'm suspension training. I'm currently a PES through NASM, a CES through NASM, a Share Care specialist online trainer through NASM, and then through Nesta, In the past, I've had ACE certification, AFA certification, NSCA, you name it. Like I had over 20 certifications at one time, including nutrition and wellness counselor certification and 2 other more minor nutrition certifications. So I really took very seriously what I did at that time, and that's why it shows now pushing 60, with 17 going on 17 and a half inch arms and a 47 to 48 and a half inch chest, depending on how much focus I'm putting on it, and keeping my waist my body fat relatively in check. But right now, body fat isn't so much the issue. It has to do with peak, hormone efficacy. So I'm focusing really on my HPTA, and that means getting enough fat that'll provide support for your neural hormone function. And there's no frills, nothing fancy, doing this on a shoestring. I showed how to do carnivore on a shoestring, where I got my waist down to 28 inches. I got under 155 pounds. I wasn't cutting back on food at all. I know how to get really shredded and ripped. I know how to get big. And so without any, ancillary substances such as AAS, PEDs, or even using peptides or anything like that. I'm not saying that I'm against those things. They just have to be done when you have enough resources to do it effectively, right? But I'm not entirely against TRT. I'm about 60% against just TRT in general. There's so many other ways to boost up your testosterone, but there are cases where somebody really needs to put the cart before the horse and kind of get a boost. Maybe they were academics or homeless, or in situations where they couldn't focus on their health, and when they did, it took away from their ability to just survive, right? So I'd like to see advocacy for those types of people in the fitness industry instead of these channels on YouTube that are just taking advantage of people, right? They're looking at the ignorance of the average person who has a certain set income, and now it's time for them to they're either going through a midlife crisis, a divorce, or they're just now focusing through their own insecurity on their physicality, because they realize, wow, I'm in my late 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and I've never done this before, and I always tried to live this more balanced lifestyle, but I see now that without me being like buff or having some sort of marked influence in that area, I don't get the respect that I deserve, right? So it is kind of a show me time, and this has been my area of focus for so many years. As you know, I became obese and didn't give a shit. I was drinking and eating fast food and around real toxic people, and it wasn't that I was making bad decisions. There were some really strange experiences that I had in my life where I realized I want to be able to give back. I want to see what the world's really about. I want to see what people are really about. And the individual is typically somebody who has their own internal sovereignty and is in fact more just than any justice system. But when you take a collective together and you start to shape a person based on that consensus or that collective, i.e. 1013 consensus, the black book, there is a black book for everything. There is a Machiavelli book. There is a left-hand path book. There is a way to shortcut and selfishly take whatever you want. And I wanted to not only display and demonstrate what a selfless lifestyle could do for me, but what it could do for other people. And in that, I found that there is no universal or cosmic support for that. There's no angelic force that pops out of nowhere that capriciously assists you, at least not in the way that we would think, right? You're not going to come about any sort of worldly success by becoming a more selfless, focus-based individual, right? So the more you help, the more you lose, and the more people think you're a sucker. They don't realize that you are actually challenging yourself with deeper ontological truths and questions about the nature of reality, but more so what people really are. How we are relatively all different, but at the end of the day, wherever we may come from, the consensus makes choices that are very antithetical to any sort of pure principle protocol. So I believe in the individual, I believe in the power of one, and I believe that what needs to occur, right, is that people need to stop coming together, actually, and to work on themselves. And in the likelihood that they will need to come together, they need to remember this, to practice the principles, the internal intrinsic principles of purity, and to uphold that truth. Truth is not subjective. When you start out with the pure source, the pure principles, and you go on from there, you're not going to be sacrificing other people. You're going to be sacrificing yourself. But to sacrifice yourself for someone that is selfish and self-based and doesn't care whether or not you gave your life or you died for them, that is where this whole martyrship or this selflessness breaks down. And that's what will inevitably, invariably happen to you if you go about life this way in the existential. So pulling back, working on yourself, stop using all these made-up processes, stop using these terminologies that are someone else's science, and start thinking in a practical, bare-bones based manual, right, of your own make that's based on this principle protocol. So that's your nutrition, that's your brand, right, that's your diet, that's your exercise, that is the modality of what you begin your day doing and what you are focused on, because you have to build yourself up to be able to not only protect yourself, but to protect your space, to protect your principles. And right now, it is a very taxing idea indeed to think that we are being attacked from inside, and that the things that we blamed ourselves for were possibly done by another entity or source. And I'll leave off here because I don't want to get overly esoteric in this, but you know that I will go on discussing these matters and more in future videos, because it's very pertinent and critical to our time to discuss this type of thing, because your imagination is constantly is under attack, and the things that you think, the person that you think you are, you have to go back and really question, would I really have thought that when I was a young child? Would I really have done that? Things that ended up shaping not only just ourselves but our world, right? And that these detours, these shortcuts have ultimately made us desperate and alone and without resources or recourse to become better people. Well, we're not supposed to become better people. We're supposed to be refining our souls. We are supposed to be even more so building a soul up. And many people who think they have souls don't understand that the power of one is all about culminating that individuality, not in an agrarian state or a democratic state, not existentially, but as a person alone in the universe, right? Whatever that may mean. And culminating and amassing as much power and energy as possible, so that when the inevitable, the invariable comes along, which is that the final attack will take place, not only where you sit right now from a corporeal or temporal or carnal perspective, but you're going to have to know who you are, and most people don't. They don't understand the difference between these subtle small voices in their heads and who the real you is. You need to build the real you up, and that's the only time where you can really say that you know yourself, you built a soul. And then when you get to that place, you will see that you have always been under attack from the inside out, and that the choices you made often and the things that shaped you and your life weren't really you there at all. And that lets everyone off the hook. However, now that you are awake, you're going to have to figure out how you're going to protect yourself and go into spiritual warfare. All the lies that are circulating, all the indoctrinations, the religion, the lack of truth and transparency. It is a separation, sifting mechanism is how I would describe this world, and at least this reality that we are presently in. And that at the end of the day, you have to have that pure principle protocol to go back to when you realize that all religions are false, all belief systems are false. In fact, every holiday, every accomplishment that you made really just turned into vapor and dust. The things that you regarded and cherished, if you're into cars or antiques or real estate and homes, all of that is based on complete and total bullshit, right? And even more so, it's based on critical resonance from geometrical constants that are actually working against you. Crow 77 talked years ago about the 90 degrees of sorrow, the way that the houses are built, where you have this trapped energy, right? They're in your typical structure. The wood that we build with, where we can build with so many other materials as a sacrifice, right? The foods that we stock up in the refrigerator, and the way that the animals are sacrificed and slaughtered, right? We are constantly working antithetical to what we would really believe and what we would really follow through with. And we need to individually face that, and then as a collective, possibly come in and say, look, this is what science can do for us. We have the ability to produce superior foods. We have the ability to produce nanoids and nanoorganisms that will assist our digestive system, help with tissue repair, right? Go into areas like the blood-brain barrier and fix anomalies within our own physiology that are causing people to become schizophrenic and go haywire, right? Be able to read, localize in real time whether or not we're getting deficient in a certain nutrient. We'll just see a flashing coming up, whatever technology goes toward, whether it's in our glasses, maybe in our heads, maybe a prompt speaking to us, maybe it'll be an existential thing that's interfacing that'll say you are low in boron, right, or choline. You're going to need more vitamin A pretty soon. This is what I suggest based on your lights, right? We're going to be breathing in things like vapors that are going to assist us instantly, right? In our domicile, in our living quarters. Our living quarters will become an area of cultivation that supports another layer of us, right? That can allow that will support a lack of any deficiency. Never become dehydrated, never become low in certain nutrients. Be able to combat cancer treatments instantly, right? To be able to have internal dialogue with an AI system where you say, I'm feeling really weird. I'm having these thoughts. Am I being attacked from the outside, or is this coming from a place within? What's causing this psychology? So, I mean, human beings are really progressing toward this God status, and that is the fork in the road that we're at. That is the Ubermensch or the Overman that Friedrich Nietzsche spoke of. But you got to understand that first comes Dostoevsky's Underground Man. Be well.